will control the vertical.
Welcome to Anthologic, the TV anthology podcast. I am your host, Mark. Anthologic is a podcast dedicated to exploring the good, the bad, and the odd of horror, science fiction, and the best of mystery suspense anthology shows and series on TV. Join me as we slip through the cracks of reality to approach the extremes of experience, where we can peruse the stories and art of a sinister fairground of strange and wonderful rides. And now we go on to the show that is the focus of this particular episode. Welcome to this episode of Anthologic with your host Mark. Today we're covering an anthology show from the late 90s called Welcome to Paradox. It was, this one was a Canadian sci-fi series that first aired on the Sci-Fi Channel in the US and various other places, for example, Showcase in Canada. And its first episode aired on August the 17th, 1998. It only ran for one season, 13 episodes. With the final episode airing on November the 9th, 1998. So it was basically 1998, right? Apparently this series was originally called Betaville. It was kind of a nod towards Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville, that movie, and set in like a near future city and dealing often with a sort of sci-fi stroke ethics, that kind of thing. It was an interesting show. I've only watched the first episode, and the first episode is called Our Lady of the Machine. But looking at it, it had some interesting sort of concepts around it. Basically, each story was based on a work by a fairly famous sci-fi author, a short story by various sci-fi authors, and kind of modified to fit into this same city environment. So it was kind of a single environment, but each story was in the same place, but each story dealt with something different. That was the kind of gist of it. It also has a narrator who opens and closes each episode, a bit like The Outer Limits or The Twilight Zone and such like. And apparently a running thing in it is whenever a car is used, it was always a new Volkswagen Beetle. Well, you know, one of the new types, for some reason. Sort of people that appeared in it. In the one we're talking about, Our Lady of the Machine, we have Stephen Bauer, but other actors who appeared throughout the series include Ice-T, Alice Cridge, Dana Ashbrook. I always love to see Dana Ashbrook. I might have to dig out that particular episode. I'm a big fan of his work. He's plays Bobby in Twin Peaks, if you know. If that helps, if you don't recognise the name. And various few others you would recognise. And it deals with, it's kind of a similar space because it's dealing with tech, similar space to something like Black Mirror, which I think came a little later. And yeah, it's got a certain look. This first episode, Our Lady of the Machine, was based on a story by Alan Dean Foster, a fairly prominent sci-fi writer. And it's got that late 90s look because there's obviously a little CGI now, which isn't great to modern eyes, and it's got a combination of slightly overripe dialogue and acting. I don't think it's the actor's fault. I think it was just directed to be fairly sort of melodramatic, with some really nice touches. For example, this particular story is about a holy Madonna appearing in front of people and apparently killing them. And basically, in this environment, there's a holy order that operate pretty much like the mafia. They're basically trying to extort money out of people, and if they don't cooperate, the Virgin Mary pops up and sort of does stuff. Now, Stephen Bauer's the main character in this. His name's Detective Angel Cardenas. Angel. and he's called an intuit. He's got sort of abilities to sort of work out stuff. It's works for the cop. He's got an ongoing. It's established. He's got like a physical pain that's troubled him for many, many years. That's kind of feeds into the story, and he does witness this Madonna, but he believes it's technology generated, not a real one. But there is a question about, is this really the Madonna or is it generated? And it's kind of decided it's generated, but something happens. For example, his injury disappears on one of the interactions with this Madonna, and that can't be explained by holograms and stuff. It just doesn't make sense, So maybe it's real. Is how the story resolves. One thing I did like about it is how they presented the Virgin Mary, played by Susie Joachim, and it has definitely got like an otherworldly quality. The portrayal of the Madonna in this that I really liked, was quite effective. The story kind of meanders, and these guys are thugs. They're dressed as monks, but they really are thugs, menacing people for money, and it sort of deals with that. It looks okay. This is all on YouTube, by the way. You can watch these episodes on YouTube. I watched this one on YouTube, and so I believe the entire series is on YouTube. Yeah, the opening and closing credits is kind of interesting. The guy doing it is fairly young, but he's got a deep, commanding voice. He looks a little like Tom Cruise, a little. It's got those sorts of things. It's okay. I think I'd put it in the same category as something like Perversions of Science. It's that kind of level. I think it's okay. The direction is functional and interesting. But like I say, the bits with the Madonna I thought were really stood out quite strongly. It was quite a striking set of imagery they used that actually there was one bit of the episode that really stood out to me. And there's some interesting stuff. There's like hard-boiled cops stomping about and lots of cliches built into this too, but that's okay. Other sort of episodes in this series deal with things like genetic research, how prisons, a prison for people that doesn't have bars. There's other ways of controlling people using sort of implants. There's stuff like that, and Betaville, or Paradox as it's called, is where all these stories go. There's some interesting. It's worth a look, and it explores a similar space to probably Black Mirror. Really, it is technology kind of focused, using how technology sort of it gets involved in people's lives. So it's a very, very similar play. There's someone falling in love with a robot lady, stuff like that. So it's dealing with issues that we have seen in other material that came after it, in a sort of interesting way. Because I think it was delving into original sci-fi stories. Written sci-fi is way, way more advanced than TV and movie sci-fi in some of the sort of considerations and issues he's looking at. So, and I feel like this was dipping into that. As I say, it only lasted for one season. It's part of a sort of new crop of that year that they were trying out, and they obviously felt it wasn't entirely successful. Okay, I'm going to wind up here. It's a weak recommend, I think, for me. It was interesting. It might grow on me more if I were to watch more episodes, but as it stands, this particular one, it was okay while I was watching it. Didn't really take much from it, other than I quite like some of the striking imagery around the Madonna. But yes, I think we will wind it up here. But before I go, may I ask, is anybody out there?
I'm not.
We now return control of your television set to you until next week at this same time, when the control voice will take you to